After we had gone to sleep and said goodnight to him, he made the worst decision he could have ever made. From just doing a little bit of what he had been sold, 5 times the amount of fentanyl that would have killed him was in his body. And Colin didn't ask for fentanyl. Colin didn't want to die.
We're Rob and Liz Walker. We have lived in San Carlos for 17 years. We raised our family here. Grew up through all the schools here. They went to Heather and Terra Linda, and then Colin was at Cromwell.
Colin loves sports. From an early age, he always grabbed a baseball mitt, picked up a basketball, shot baskets, played soccer, and really excelled at just being outside playing.
He worked hard in school. Probably the most just important thing to him is he loved being funny, and he was really funny.
Welcome back to CBS News. Today, we have been facing a tragedy.
Colin loved to push himself. He would jump off the highest rock at the lake. He never wanted to settle. He always pushed himself. COVID was a big change for him. When the lockdown started, he began to spend a lot more time in his room with his door closed.
There was just something off, really off, those last 2 weeks of his life. And so that morning, got up, took him down there. It's 10 a.m. He didn't wake up before 1 p.m. most of the time on weekends, but I took him to see the doctor who we trusted. She said, he's not suicidal. And we both know that he wasn't suicidal. He felt very depressed.
It was 12 o'clock and I knew he had an appointment at 12:30, and I was about to go to my daughter's soccer game. And so I went into his room and I opened the door and he wasn't in bed. And so I went over to his brother's room next door and I said, "Do you know where Colin is?" And he said, "Dad, Colin's here." And I said, "No, Colin's not in bed." And he said, "Well, call him." So I picked my phone up and I called Colin. And I heard the phone ring in his room. And so I walked in his room and he wasn't in bed, but he had fallen out of his chair at some point that night after doing the cocaine that had a lethal amount of fentanyl, and he died. I knew as soon as I saw him that there was no trying to get him back. It had been a long time that he had been laying there. And I just started screaming. I watched my son's body be taken out our front door in a body bag. I knew I had brought him in that door as a baby. And I saw him go out. And no family should ever have to go through that, which is why we are doing what we're doing. We can't bring our son back. We'll never know what his life was going to be. But if one kid hears this and says, it is not worth it,
hopefully we'll never know if this was successful or not, because we won't hear about another kid dying.
He bought a drug that was poisoned. He didn't die because he had an overdose. It's not an overdose when you weren't knowingly taking a drug that you were sold. He was poisoned. And in the end, our son was killed.
This isn't about don't do drugs, just say no. This is decades, for years, for hundreds of years, teenagers have experimented. They've been impulsive, they've taken risks. Drugs have been part of that. But now, you know, you experiment and you can die. I hope parents talk to their kids, but I hope really that the kids that are hearing this and teenagers at the high school go, no pain is so great that a drug that you're just trying to dull that pain is worth taking. Or if you don't have mental health issues, no high or fun at a party is fun enough to die.